Stanford Professor Garry Nolan claims to have seen a gray alien. In fact, many gray aliens, little men in his bedroom as he described them. He's also seen a UFO, a round object with whitish lights. And to be fair to Garry Nolan, he also says it could have all been a dream. Hi, I'm Patrick. This is Vetted. Hit that like button if you like this video. It really helps us out a lot. Leave a comment down below of what you think of this clip and Garry Nolan's stories. And of course, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We put out a new video every day, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Let's jump in. All right, so this clip is fascinating. It's from a full interview that he did with Ross Coulthart. I'll put a link to the full interview, right, so you can watch this on YouTube. It's a little over an hour. And I'll put a timestamp to where we're watching this. This is at minute 29:38, basically, is where this is jumping in at. So yeah, let's watch it. This is basically all of Garry Nolan's UFO experiences and alien experiences that he's had in his life. So that's what this video is, basically. So you can listen. And to be fair, you know, these are my favorite kind of stories to hear. I love hearing people's experiences, their sightings, like what they've seen, what they've experienced. Like, I find that stuff fascinating, to be honest with you. So let's take a listen.
I mean, so I did see an object very close up when I was a kid. I didn't know what it was.
Can you tell me that story?
So I was a paper boy. This was in Connecticut, Windsor, Connecticut. And there was a man at the end of one of the streets who needed his paper by 5:30 in the morning.
Listen, real quick. I have to pause it every once in a while here because, unfortunately, the last video that I put up yesterday with using this same interview, they put a copyright strike on. They're trying to anyway. I disputed it, whatever. It takes time, whatever. It's just a hassle. So I'm just going to kind of pausing it. But it was only one part where I let it play for a bit. So every so often I got to pause it and kind of jump in and give some commentary, y'all. So just FYI, that's why I'm doing it. Please understand that that's the reason why I do that a lot. I can't just let clips play all the way through. Sometimes I can and sometimes I can't.
And so I would always be there, so I knew about the time. It was dark. It was March or so. And I delivered his paper. And then there was basically a copse of woods through which I had to walk to get to the next street to walk the other way and delivered the papers there. Because it was March, there were no leaves on the trees. And as I was walking through the woods, I could see my shadow in front of me and the shadows of the branches around me, which first kind of caught me off guard because I didn't remember the moon being out. But what was more, I guess, dramatic was that the shadows began to move as I was walking, and they were moving as if there was a light behind me that was moving, which caused me to look up and see an object right at the top of the trees go right over my head silently. Now,
what sort of object?
It just was a kind of roundish object with, I remember, kind of like 4 or 5 whitish lights pointing down. And
have y'all had, I'm curious if anyone in the comments can leave a comment if you've had a similar sighting. Curious about that. If anyone's had something similar, right, to what Professor Nolan just described. Roundish object, 4 or 5 whitish lights, kind of above you, hovering silently.
But, you know, I can't even remember how old I was, 10 or 12, whatever.
Were you scared?
Whatever it was. No, I wasn't scared because I didn't know what it was. And I didn't immediately say to myself, I mean, this would have been 1972, 73. I didn't say, oh, there was a UFO, because I didn't even know what a UFO was. And it really wasn't until about 20 years or so later that, as I paid attention as anybody does to movies and things and UFOs, and it kind of clicked in my head. I said, wait, was that what I saw? And so,
you know, I can totally understand that aspect of it. Seeing something and then many years later, or whatever time later, period of time later, seeing something else and having that remind you of the other thing and being like, oh yeah, that's kind of like what I saw. You know, that makes sense. Because I've heard people use that to debunk other people's sightings and that sort of stuff. Oh, well, he just, he saw it in a movie and this and that. No, but, it can remind you. Seeing something in a movie can remind you of something you saw in real life. That's not so crazy to think about, to be honest with you. So I can totally understand that aspect, that at first you're citing, you don't really understand it. It isn't until later that you realize what you saw. I mean, I do accept that.
That story is like the story of many people. And so I now look at that as, I would call it again, preliminary evidence, preliminary data. I said, okay, well, that's worth understanding. And if other people are seeing the same thing, that's a kind of confirmation. So why are these people being derided for just reporting what they've seen? Because if it is something else like that, it should interest any scientist, in my mind.
You have had other experiences too, haven't you?
Yeah.
Can you talk about those?
This is probably the more unusual one, and again, I'm hardly the only individual to have had this.
So this is a fascinating experience to me for Garry Nolan, right? That he's gone through this as a child, and then later on, right, he's studying this. I can understand why you would then have a passion for it. You've got a personal connection to this, right? So maybe him being a scientist, Nobel Prize nominated scientist. I mean, just his accolades and credentials are through the roof, right? Let's be real. It's very well respected. Someone of his caliber talking to other people, right, of his caliber, they may be dismissive because they don't have that personal experience, right? So as scientific and as analytical as he is, right, this thing, he just knows deep down there's something to it, right? And that's fascinating. So, and this, one thing is seeing this UFO, right, this round object above you, whatever. This next story he's about to tell you, this is something completely different.
As a young boy, I would have been probably 6 or 7 because it was in our first house that my parents had bought in Windsor, of little men in the bedroom. I was awake. I knew they were there. I could see them.
Scared?
I can't remember being scared, but I remember telling my parents the next day about it.
Could it have been a dream?
It could have been a dream. But so here's the interesting thing. I saw these little men in the bedroom, and it went on for, I guess, a few weeks, and then it just stopped. So I promptly forgot about it. What was critical was about 20 years again later, actually here in Palo Alto, I was at a used bookstore, and I pulled out a book, and I'm pretty sure it was either John Mack's or Whitley Strieber's book, Communion. And there on the front cover was, and I can feel the hair on my arms going up, was what I saw.
That's the classic grey alien face.
I remember I dropped the book because it was like, whoa. And it was a revelation, I guess, but then I'm also, I've read Jung, right? And the collective unconscious. And so, part of my self-explanation for what it was that I was seeing was just some collective.
I mean, is that not just like crazy, right? Like, I don't know if some of y'all in the comments have had a similar experience. Again, one thing is to see something in the sky and not understand what it is. Another thing is to have this, close encounter, right? Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't know how you're not scared. I don't know. I don't understand. Like, I would be terrified. Absolutely just terrified if I saw that. Now, granted, he's a kid, so, maybe it was different. I don't know. I'm curious what y'all think of the story. Have you had a similar one as well? He doesn't go into too much detail, but as far as like, how long were they there? How many exactly were they? How big was your room? Where were they standing in the room? How did they enter and exit the room? How long did these visitations last? You said a few weeks. What do we mean by that? Exactly 21 days? Or, right, like, there's a lot of details to know, right? Were you sleeping well at that time? Right. What other things you start to, admonish other possibilities, right? That could have happened. Like, okay, this didn't happen. That didn't happen. Well, yeah, this could have happened. Right. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Unconscious. And so, part of my self-explanation for what it was that I was seeing was just some collective unconscious genetic memory that we all have that has nothing to do with anything from outside.
So being a good scientist, you can't say it was ET.
Can't. Absolutely not. Yeah.
It made you think.
It made me think. I mean, and I think being a scientist is all about being willing to ask the difficult question.
That's it, y'all. It's about being able to ask a difficult question. And I would even take it a step further, and I'm not a scientist. I mean, pursuing that question, not just asking it, but pursuing it, trying to answer it, right? That's the key. That's science in motion, right? Like, otherwise it's just philosophy to just ask the question. You've got to go put, rubber to the road, as they say. Look, I'm curious to hear what everyone's comments, stories are, their experiences, because it's fascinating. Again, some people get into this topic because they've had an experience just by default, right? You're part of the phenomena in a sense by having the experience. Other people haven't, like myself. And, I don't know. It's just interesting, right? To hear all these stories, like what's mentally what you're going through, how you live with it, right? How it stays with you. Do you tell certain people if you're at a party? Do you want to tell people? Are they going to laugh at you? Do you wait till you're comfortable, right? Someone tells you their story. Now you're like, yeah, I got a story. I'll tell you the truth, man. Most people you speak to, they're interested in this topic. They may giggle here or there, but if you get them alone, yeah, it's interesting. Because it's interesting. It's fascinating. Again, the idea that we're not alone is not crazy, right? So, you know what I mean? So to talk about not being alone at the end of the day is not that crazy. I mean, let's be real. That's not a crazy concept. I think it's just scary for people to talk about because, we live our daily lives. We're in these little worlds, these little bubbles. We don't realize we're like this little spinning rock in this huge vacuum of space, this infinite space, like, yeah, there's other stuff out there, y'all. Sorry. There are other, right, people on the other side of that mountain, right? If we jump in this ship and go across the ocean, there will be other people, right? Like the ocean being space, right? Like that's all it is. Islands, planets, right? Islands are planets. Space is the ocean. Like, of course, people are coming here. I think, I say extraterrestrial. I do think extraterrestrial over interdimensional and all these other theories. They've been here the whole time, all this stuff. No, I think it's as simple as they came from somewhere else. I mean, that just makes the most sense. They're somewhere else just like we are, and they came here. That's it. No time traveling, no this, no that. Maybe they can alter something to be able to move a certain way. I don't know. Anyway, what do I know? Just speculating. But anyway, tell me what y'all think about Garry Nolan's story. Can't wait to hear it. Again, hit that like button if you haven't already. Helps us out a lot. And of course, hit that subscribe button, y'all. We're growing fast. Trying to get to 3,000 before the end of the year. Potentially Christmas. I don't know. We'll see. I'm Patrick with Vetted. Remember, we put out a video every day, 12 p.m. Central. So we'll see you guys in the next video. Remember, every day's a gift, y'all. Peace.